Nightly greetings, one and all. William Theo here, homegrown and happy to be bringing you events breaking late all over the planet. And we begin tonight's breakers with the president's last foreign trip of the year. A little over a month ago, Japanese Premier Fumio Kishida paid a truly historic visit to the country to renew security ties, assure funding for projects left in the lurch by an apparent Chinese decision to renege on its financing commitments, and to check on the Philippine subway project, primarily bankrolled by Japan through its official development assistance program. And so on Friday, the president just recovered from his week-long isolation recovery treatment from COVID-19 Omicron exposure, is set to fly to the Sakura State to celebrate a special ASEAN-Japan hookup that turns gold on Friday. A trip confirmation announced earlier today in a palace briefing by Foreign Affairs Assistant Secretary Daniel Espiritu, who said the president is definitely set to leave for Japan on Friday, December 15. Espiritu said that the president is likely to have a bilateral huddle with Kishida to dwell on the latest developments obtaining in the Southeast Asia region, especially China's latest bullying and harassive tactics in the West Philippine Sea. The summit is on Sunday, the 17th, and will cover youth and student exchange, cultural and sports joint endeavor, supply chain issues, connectivity and infrastructure, food and energy security, and climate change. Hong Kong's first district elections for patriots yielded a 27.5% voter turnout, the government announced earlier today. It was the lowest ever turnout for such polls that this year simply shut out all opposition candidates from joining. The last city district elections held in 2019 prior to the pandemic and at the peak of the massive democratic protests drew a voter turnout north of 70% that yielded a electoral landslide victory for the democracy protesters. Today's deflating voter turnout confirms voter disappointment and despair on Hong Kong's electoral exercises, and how over 7 of 10 individuals made a statement of how the polls do not factor in the government's belief that the status quo is quite okay. Over 70% of candidates who joined today's electoral exercises came from the nominating committees. 3 members of the League of Social Democrats, one of the last remaining opposition groups, said they planned to stage protests but were immediately arrested even before they could show up for the said event. A little over 18,000 in casualties, more than 7,000 of which are kids, 46,000 wounded, and 1.9 million Palestinians displaced with no let-up in the bombing and artillery fire on the ground. And so a United Nations resolution calling for an unconditional ceasefire, which just about every country supported, was deep-sixed by the United States, rejecting a ceasefire on the Israel's war. Then again, Secretary of State Antony Blinken tried to wiggle his way out of the bind by explaining the necessity to not let up on the pounding of Gaza, as VOA's Veronica Balderas Iglesias reports.
More forcefully, with intensity. That's how Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu described Sunday the advances of his troops in Gaza.
In order to achieve all our goals, the elimination of Hamas, the return of all our abductees, and the promise that Gaza will never again be a threat to Israel.
Netanyahu also thanked the United States for vetoing a UN Security Council resolution last week that would have called for an immediate ceasefire. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken explained the decision when interviewed Sunday on ABC's This Week show.
With Hamas still alive, still intact, and again, with the stated intent of repeating October 7th again and again and again, that would simply perpetuate the problem.
As Blinken stressed the importance of providing Israel the support and weapons it needs to defend itself, he made it clear it is not without conditions.
Those rules apply to Israel as they do to any other country, including the way they're used and the imperative of respecting international humanitarian law.
But as the civilian death toll continues to rise in Gaza, the United States stance has been strongly criticized at the Doha Forum, which is held every year to discuss world challenges.
It's not up to Israel only. It is those who have those who have given the Israelis the greenest of the green light to continue killing the Palestinians.
In the United States, we had a very blunt conversation with Secretary Blinken. All of us, the Arab and Muslim delegation, were very clear. Our priorities are set. Stop the aggression, allow sufficient humanitarian supplies into all parts of Gaza, ensure protection of civilians.
UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, also a forum participant, said he'll continue appealing for a humanitarian ceasefire to be declared. And from Geneva, the chief of the World Health Organization, Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, warned about the impact the war is having on the health environment in the Gaza Strip.
As more and more people move to a smaller and smaller area, overcrowding, combined with the lack of adequate food, water, shelter, and sanitation, are creating the ideal conditions for disease to spread.
He noted his organization has deployed teams to support health workers on the ground who are physically and mentally exhausted. Veronica Valderas Iglesias, VOA News, Washington.
And now we turn to our colleague in our Pine City studios for the latest brewing in the Cordilleras. Eddie?
Naimbagarabi, Pilipinas, sangaribo ang municipal ken provincial SK Federation Presidents iti Pagilian. Tinagipasan iti talong aldaw ang National Youth Convention 2023 iti Baguio City. Inorganisar ito iti National Youth Commission a responsable iti panagaramin iti polisiya ken programa para kada iti agtutubo. Panggap ti aktibidad ang masorwan iti SK learners o leaders gagbalin nga epektibo iti local and national development. Nagserbi man ni Senator Amy Marcos kas guest of honor iti panaglipas na aktibidad isuna iti nag-administer iti oath of office iti SK national representatives. Inyunay unay pa iti senadora ti partisipasyon na dagiti agtutubo iti national policy making.
May menu, magkasundo tayo sa menu ng mga projects at programa na pwedeng tutukan na may kinalaman sana sa trabaho, sa edukasyon at sa mental health at teenage pregnancy. Sana mabalik ang mandato ng ating SK at NYC.
Kamayatan na binigbig ti Department of Education na Cordillera dagiti partners ken stakeholders a kabinadang daiti panakaragpat ken panakaipaati di kalidad ng edukasyon kadagiti ubing. Inaangay at 2023 Education Stakeholders Forum. Inyunay unay ni Director Stella Carino ang napaday dagiti stakeholders iti sektor ti edukasyon gaputasan dalang agserserbi ang naganak gapit di tumultulong na iti aspeto ti pinansyal ken iti panakaipaati psychosocial training kada iti learners. Nakailista iti DepEdCar ken dagiti nagduduma division offices iti nasurok 2,500 a partners. Individual ken grupo tumultulong iti ahensya. Sigon gamin iti DepEdCar, nakaipaay dagiti stakeholders iti 64 million agataad tinaduma-duma tulong para iti school year 2023-2024 kada iti nagduduma pagadalan iti Cordillera. Nga dadanga ng palagaan iti panagadal dagiti nasurok 421,000 learners iti resyon.
All stakeholders are important because we all know that the teachers are not enough. No, we are not enough, and so we really need the community. No, so it takes a village to educate a child.
Bueno, dagiti damdamag manipod ito yung PTV Cordillera siya ni Eddie Carta na imbag Arabi.
Thank you, Eddie. And that's a wrap for tonight's show. We look forward to you joining us tomorrow, same time, same place, on your dial, remote, or browser. And always keep in mind to work hard, dream big, give thanks, spread the love while you catch the news right here. William Theo wishing you a restful evening up ahead.